Welcome into another NFL season preview here on Sports by the Book. I'm Jeff Parles. She is Alex White. And today, Alex, our Sports by the Book previews continue along with the team that the bettors seem to like going into the 25 season, and that is the Arizona Cardinals.
Makes a lot of sense, right, Jeff? In 2023, this team had just 4 wins. They doubled that last year with 8 wins, and now a lot of people are expecting them to make another leap forward. The big question is, did they already overachieve last year by getting those 8 wins, or are they on the right track? So Kyler Murray, of course, at quarterback, and Jonathan Gannon, head coach here for the Arizona Cardinals. It seems like this is a pretty wide open division, though, this year, with the Niners being down last year, the Rams really injured, and then made a push to make the playoffs. Could be anybody's division.
Well, you look at the NFC West as a whole. Again, it's a new era in Seattle with Sam Darnold taking over a quarterback. New look roster. Cooper Kupp now in Seattle, as weird as that may seem. DK Metcalf in Pittsburgh. Arizona sits there at 8.5 with the win total juiced to the over. So the market is telling you they are projected to finish over 500. It's been a while since the Cardinals have been this relevant, at least preseason. Or plus 150 to make the postseason, or plus 450 to win a division. 35-1 to win the NFC, and then 80-1 to lift the Lombardi for the first time in franchise history. Again, the Rams, the favorites in the division, but with a lower win total here at the South Point than the 49ers. Again, this is a division, Alex, where in the past we've seen it be very weak. We've seen it be very strong in the last decade, and at least going into the year, Arizona, I think, settles in nicely as a team that, to me at least, all right, they're clearly better than Seattle, at least in my book. The question is San Francisco's down year have to do with the injuries, or is that a continuous downslide in San Francisco to potentially push Arizona in the same level as the Rams?
And it makes it very hard to handicap, right? Because, of course, Kyle Shanahan, we know how good he has been as a head coach there, and they're either boom or bust. I mean, they either win the division and go on to the NFC Championship game or don't make the playoffs. So what are we going to get this year with Brock Purdy now under contract? But really, I would lean more to them kind of taking a slower step to getting back to that dominance of this division. I really think it's wide open, and my power ratings, this is the closest division I have of any of them. I think there's about a 6-point favorite right there where you see San Francisco, Rams, Arizona, Seattle. That is my order, but it's just a point and a half, a couple points between each team. So anything can really happen. Make or break, couple games here or there. But I think the bookmakers did an excellent job with their win totals pretty much throughout this division, and with the Cardinals right there, 8.5.
Cardinals schedule, as we shall receive. You have a week 1 game in New Orleans, and Alex, I'm just gonna throw this at you here, because I know it may seem on the surface of, that's a game you should win. You're going to be a nice size favorite on the road. It is critical to Arizona's season to not punt that, to not dump that game. Don't lose to a team that, again, we both project New Orleans to be one of the 3 bottom teams in the NFL. The win total market tells you that as well. There's more likely than not starting a rookie second-round quarterback in Tyler Shuck. Yeah, it's his first NFL game. Yeah, New Orleans is a difficult place to play, regardless of how good or bad New Orleans is. You have to win that game. And if you win that game, you'll handle your business more likely than not against Carolina week 2. And then you go to San Francisco, a team that Arizona beat twice a year ago, and you have an opportunity to start 3-0 and then a winnable. Look, there's a lot of winnable games these first 6 weeks. There's a path to go. There's a path to start 6-0 with a massive showdown against Green Bay in week 7. There's also a path where the Cardinals are the underachieving team we saw at the back end of last year, where they were on their way to making the playoffs after smoking the Jets going into the bye. They went 2-5 down the stretch. That's why they ended up 8-9 as opposed to making the postseason. So curious to see how they start out. And then after the bye week, that schedule, even though not overly intimidating, is significantly more difficult than what it was pre-bye.
No, that beginning of the schedule is fairly easy. I do think that they have to take advantage there. To your point, Jeff, talking about them going 2-5 to finish the season last year, it's kind of a pattern that we've seen from Kyler Murray. Mm-hmm. Really hot starts, and then I don't know whether it's the play calling. It's maybe a combination. Play calling or defenses, have more film and start to figure him out. We know that he is a dual threat and can definitely use his legs, but it has been a pattern there in Arizona, but it seems like the higher ups aren't too concerned about it. I mean, they went heavy in the draft on defense, which I think they really needed, but offensively, I think they have the pieces that they think they need. And I mean, they love their tight ends. They run a lot of 12 and 13 personnel. We saw 47% of their offensive snaps last year. James Conner went under the radar, had an outstanding year, over 1,500 total yards for him. So their run game was really good. Now, can they put it all together? And do you believe those pieces are good enough to fill in the holes for their defense?
Well, it's interesting coordinator-wise for both of this team, right? Like, again, Drew Petzing, the offensive coordinator, might end up in head coaching discussions this offseason if Kyler Murray and company get off that track of, and this dates back Kyler's whole career. It's almost like you get more tape on him throughout the year, and you're like, all right, this is how we shut down this Arizona offense. We've seen that on multiple occasions now through Murray's career. And look, defensive-wise, you just touched on it. It's a new-look defense, to put it politely. There are a lot of different pieces than we saw a year ago, and a defense they melted down as the year went along. Again, for me, this is a wide range, not a collapsed range here for Arizona. If you told me the Cardinals went 5-12 because Murray couldn't stay healthy, or the league caught on early this year and Jonathan Gannon all of a sudden is on a hot seat going into a year 4, maybe even doesn't make it to a year 4 of Arizona, goes 5-12, as unfair as they may be, because I think Gannon's done a pretty darn good job with a horrible team that he inherited 2 years ago. We were talking about them in 2023 being one of the worst teams ever. They won 4 games, and they didn't really get blown out in many games. They were competitive basically across the board in that 23 season. Get off to a great start. Yeah, it's a bad back end, but again, I'm in the camp here where if you told me Arizona wins 11 games and wins the NFC West, yeah, I could hear that. I think 8.5 is perfect. I think 8-9, 9-8 is probably where they're going to be, but Alex, I do want to bring up one guy who last year was a little bit of a disappointment in his rookie year with all those expectations out of Ohio State. Marvin Harrison Jr. was not consistent, not quite as good as we would have hoped a year ago. He might be the keys to the car of, hey, if Harrison is actually an offensive player of the year candidate, is 50-1, then Arizona's had a really darn good season, and more likely than not are going back to the postseason for the second time with Kyler Murray a quarterback.
I would like to think it just took time, right, for Kyler Murray and him to really connect and get that rhythm. So I do think that we will see a better year from him, which leads me to potentially the best play in my eyes, which is Kyler Murray going over 4,000 passing yards. He had 3,850 last year, so just 150 short. And you mentioned it. I mean, Harrison Jr. had a year that wasn't expected. We expected even more from him. And if we get that this year, I mean, and we've got Trey McBride, who is a top tight end in the league, who can help out in that department too. Other than that, I can't really find a whole lot of best bets here with the Cardinals. But how you feel about them with the wide range, I don't really see that. I'm right there at between 8 and 10. I think the bookmakers did a good job, but kind of how I started out, though. They might have overachieved a little bit last year, making that big leap, and maybe we just see them make a small step forward this year, maybe 9, maybe 10 wins.
The one thing that can detract to my wide range thing, because if Kyler Murray gets hurt in the past, look, they've had bad backups behind him for the most part, other than when Dobbs had that little run where he looked like a reasonable backup for a little bit. They have Jacoby Brissett as the backup now.
Yeah.
So if Murray were to get injured and have to miss time, there is a drop, but it's not a crazy drop to Brissett, who we look at as a top 5 backup in this league. So that is a way to where if Arizona's going to make the postseason. And again, I expect them to be in the race. I expect this more be, all right, we get down to the final 4 weeks where, boy, those last 6 games are really difficult. Any way you slice it, you got to get fat and happy early. Your last 6 games at Tampa, the Rams, you get the Rams twice in the last 5 weeks. At Houston, division favorite. Atlanta, who the heck knows what we had getting out of the Falcons at that point. Falcons could win the NFC South if all goes right. That could be a huge potential game down there. At Cincinnati, yeah, that's not an easy game. We expect the Bengals to be in the playoff hunt again. And then week 18, it kind of depends on what the Rams have clinched or or not. So you got to get fat and happy if you're Arizona.
Yeah.
That's why I go back. We're going to learn early on them. They get out hot. They start 5-1. All right, postseason on. Let's go. They start 3-3. Yeah, it's probably looking at an 8, 9, 7, and 10 under then, Alex. That's kind of where my head is at with this team.
It's pretty solid. I mean, I have them starting 4-2, just a couple hiccups there, but I think that's closer to the good side, right? Rather than 3-3. I agree with that. I mean, 3-3, you're looking down the road and it just gets tougher and tougher. It would be hard for them to stay at 500 with their schedule getting more difficult. So you're right, 4-2, hoping for 5-1 at the very least to start off. So you're right. We'll find out quickly.
Jonathan Gannon's 20-1 to be coach of the year. He's near the top of the list. Not much of a surprise there. It's interesting because, again, like 2 years ago, he inherited a roster. Again, Murray coming off the significant injury, a roster with no quarterback, no really like, all right, might be a epic tank-a-palooza. And remember, there were rumblings of, hey, do the Cardinals even bring Kyler Murray back after the injury? Do they trade him? Do they try to get out from underneath of that big contract? Didn't work out that way. It worked out that Arizona was a good 4-13, if that can be a thing. And then again, until the collapse down the stretch last year, they were. Remember, there was a time of last year where they were the favorite to win the NFC West for a few weeks, and then they fell off. The Rams took it over and obviously won the West and were the closest to knocking the Eagles off in the postseason a year ago. But 20-1, it's not a bad bet on Gannon if you think the Cardinals are going to be pushing for the NFC West crown. I'll just do my showy diatribe with this. If Chicago and or New England make the playoffs, it's going to be very difficult for Ben Johnson or Mike Vrabel not to win this award. But in the 20-1 pocket, I like Gannon a lot more than I like Kyle Shanahan or Mike McDonald or Matt LaFleur or Harbaugh. I think he's probably that mid-tier guy that you can consider taking a flyer on here.
I don't hate it at all, especially because, like you're saying, I mean, if you're adding everything up, the past and what he has been through, you got a lot of continuity coming into this year. So you're taking a shot on a guy who's already had his weapons and his quarterback and his, core pieces there. And now they've just added a few more to be even better. Is that enough to win the coach of the year then? Because, it is a lot about the storyline. So that might play into it, but I definitely like it more than the top two with Shanahan and McVay. But McDonald's still, that one's a little intriguing to me between those bottom two, just because if one of them does win this division.
It's going to be, again, Arizona near the bottom of the NFC Championship odds, 35-1. The only ones longer than Arizona are the Saints, who we think very little of, the Giants, who, again, we think they're going to be better roster-wise, but their schedule's a behemoth, and Carolina. That's it. Those are the only teams that are that are longer than Arizona. Again, I don't think the Cardinals are capable of making the Super Bowl. The team, they're not quite. They're not in the Rams, the Lions, the Eagles. Honestly, I don't think they're in the level of any of those NFC North teams personally, but it just, boy, that is a juicy price, but I don't see the path for them winning 3 playoff games and making a Super Bowl. I just don't see that, even though I think they should be similarly priced to Atlanta or maybe even Tampa, but they're the 4th longest shot on the board here in the NFC.
I think that goes with the whole Rams or the Niners, right? We don't expect both of them to be really down again. You always expect one to be pretty dominant. So we'll see what happens. But I think that is just about right for the power ratings where they fell for the NFC. But I don't expect them, if they do make the playoffs, which I could see, I don't think that is a bad bet, but I wouldn't bet them to win it all.
That's what we got for the Arizona Cardinals. You have one more?
Well, when we talked about defense and them drafting a lot, we have to bring up Josh Sweat as well.
Yes, that was the big pickup.
Yep.
This offseason. Again, Dalvin Tomlinson also comes over as well. I don't think Sweat is a defensive player of the year candidate.
No.
I don't think that. But again, if you're going to see improvement on this Arizona defense, it absolutely starts with Sweat. And again, boy, they got Will Johnson in the 2nd round, a guy who I thought was a 1st-round talent out of Michigan, and just injuries really befell him. 33-1 to win defensive rookie of the year for Will Johnson. Boy, again, I go back to I would. This is Abdul Carter's award. I expect him to be a Pro Bowler in year one, which would make it probably a pretty easy win for him on this. But boy, there are worse bets to be made if you think that Johnson can make it through the whole season healthy at Arizona. Again, it is hard for a defensive back to win this award. Also, of course, Walter Nolan as well. Their first round pick, who's going to be playing on the defensive line as well. But boy, Johnson at 33-1, I'd like that a little more than Nolan, since I think Nolan's impact might be a little bit truncated because of the other pieces they have on this defense.
Yeah, no, I think that is fair too. But I am glad we brought both of those picks up and talking about the additions they made to their defensive side, which definitely needed it because, I mean, their offensive numbers were better than they were defensively.
Oh, yeah.
So
significantly better offensive team a year ago than a defensive team. All right. So we got for the Arizona Cardinals, a fun one. Interesting. We're getting up the board here. We're getting to the teams that are around 500 or so, with more previews coming here on the Sports by the Book page over the next month. All 32 teams here from Alex and I. And this has been the Arizona Cardinals here today. She's Alex White. I'm Jeff Parles. We'll see you next time here on Sports by the Book. If you're tuning in for the first time, we're live Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 o'clock Eastern, right here on the Sports by the Book YouTube page. So make sure you hit that subscribe button.